the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7, and we have recovered 115% of the jobs lost to COVID compared to just 93% in the U.S., Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, the governor also announced that because of inflation, every single Canadian pays $2,000 more a year. He said Canadians should expect more interest rate increases, leaving millions of Canadians paying more on their mortgages and on their loans. And when the governor was asked what this government should do to preserve Canada's fiscal position, you know what he said? Don't spend too much. Is the minister listening?
No.
Will she finally control her spending? And why has she failed to address Canada's affordability crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, let me remind the members opposite that S&P and Moody's have reaffirmed Canada's AAA credit rating and that we have the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7. And when it comes to making life more affordable for Canadians, our budget has done so much. We're doubling the support provided through the first-time homebuyers tax credit. We're introducing a multi-generational home renovation tax credit. And we're providing a $500 payment to those facing housing affordability challenges.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have had 6 years to fix the housing market. Instead, under their policies, house prices have doubled under their watch. So let's go back and take a look at some of their programs. The First-Time Homebuyers Program failed. Shared Equity Mortgage Program failed. Housing Co-Investment Fund failed. With new programs announced in the budget, Canadians are asking, how will this government fail this time?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for the question. Budget 2022 actually does 4 things. We're seeking to double the supply of new housing in the next decade by introducing programs like the Housing Accelerator Fund. We are helping first-time home buyers with a tax-free savings account of up to $40,000, doubling the first-time home buyer tax credit, extending the first-time home buyer incentive. In addition to that, we're tackling speculation by banning foreign ownership of Canadian residential real estate. And Mr. Speaker, we're building more affordable housing by investing in co-op housing, extending the first-time home buyer incentive, and extending the tax-free home buyer savings account.
I got a lot of that. Member for South Shore St. Margaret's. I'm hearing him way over here, so I'm trying to keep him down here. The
Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, the climate crisis is worsening. Our ecosystems are threatened. Our bodies of water, our green spaces, and biodiversity are threatened as well. A global movement for the right to nature is addressing this crisis of massive extinction of living species. It's time for a paradigm shift, and that's why the NDP is proposing a legal status for the St. Lawrence River. Will the Liberals support our proposal to give a legal status to the St. Lawrence River and its watersheds to protect it? The Honourable Minister.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to thank the Honourable Member for his question. Last week we met with Nature Conservancy Canada, and we put in place an excellent project. The sound quality is poor for the interpreter. Of our lands and our oceans by 2030, and an international objective with a view to protect biodiversity and for all Canadians.
For Vancouver East.
The minister said he wouldn't implement visa-free travel for people fleeing Putin's war because it would take 14 to 16 weeks, even though Ireland managed to do it within a few days. To no one's surprise, there's now a backlog of over 100,000 Ukrainians waiting for visa approval, mostly women, children, and seniors. And when they arrive, they'll need supports immediately. That means getting landed status. The government needs to stop hiding behind layers of bureaucracy bureaucracy. When will the minister implement visa-free travel and provide Ukrainians with status within 90 days of arrival?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. I would point out, though, our mission at the outset of this effort was to create the fastest possible pathway for Ukrainians to get to Canada where they could benefit from the safe haven our country can offer. I'm pleased to share that as of last week, more than 56,000 Ukrainians had already been approved to come to Canada in the first few weeks that we were making approvals. This is something Canadians can be proud of, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to do whatever we can, not just to get Ukrainians here, but to support them once they arrive. It's the right thing to do, and I'm so pleased to have the support of Canadians in every community right across this country.
The Honourable Member for Brampton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, over the last 2 years, our government has consistently heard from employers regarding their challenges with the skills and labor shortages that has affected not just their businesses, but also Canada's economic growth and recovery. In my riding of Brampton Centre, I also have a thriving population of international graduates whose temporary status is expiring due to processing challenges caused by the pandemic. They are eager to find a pathway to remain and work in Canada. What is the government doing to allow more of these talented workers to remain in Canada so they can contribute to Canada's economy?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I point out that the member who posed the question is an absolute champion for international students, and I thank him for his advocacy on this important file. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to share that last week I had the opportunity to make an announcement in St. John, New Brunswick, that the federal government would be extending open work permits to those who are facing soon-to-be expired or recently expired postgraduate work permits. In addition, Mr. Speaker, because of the investments we have made to increase processing at IRCC, we have now cut the inventory of cases in the high-skilled express entry categories more than in half, and we're going to be able to resume the express entry draws this July to make sure more people can come and make a difference to our economy in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian housing prices have surged over the last 2 years. The average cost of a home in the GTA rose more than 50%. The government blames the lack of supply for the price hike and pledged to double the pace of home building over the next decade. But that plan seems to be missing from the budget. We won't see a single additional house built this year. Not one. Canadians aren't giving up on their dream of home ownership, so why is the minister giving up on them?
The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Speaker, I would invite the honourable member to read the entire budget because the budget actually doubles down on so much more housing supply in Canada. 6,000 more housing, co-op housing, new housing.
Order. I'll let the minister restart his answer. The Honourable Minister of Housing.
The reason, Mr. Speaker, that they can't handle my answers is because we call them out on their plan.
All right. The Honourable Minister of Housing.
Budget contains a lot of measures to build more housing supply. 100,000 new homes through the Housing Accelerator Fund. 6,000 more homes through new co-op buildings. 6,000 more homes through the Rapid Housing Initiative. 20,000 more homes through the National Housing Co-Investment Fund. That is the supply we're talking about.
The Honourable Member, Kelowna Lake Country.
Mr. Speaker, the housing minister is failing. Conservatives warned the Liberals' strategy for housing would do nothing to help housing prices, and prices doubled. We warned 30-year high inflation would trigger interest rate hikes, and we see the biggest rate increase in 20 years. We're now warning him that families are struggling to just keep their homes. Will the minister admit his failure and tell us how many Canadians will lose their homes?
No.
Honourable Minister.
Budget 2022 housing measures and investments deal with precisely what the honourable member is talking about, making sure that we double the housing supply in this country. Canada has the fastest growth of population in the G7, but our housing supply has not kept up to that. And so we're implementing the Housing Accelerator Fund to build 100,000 new homes. We're helping first-time home buyers to establish programs like the tax-free savings account to put in $40,000 in the tax-free savings account. We're building more affordable housing, and we're tackling speculation. The party opposite failed Canadians in